All right, so let's hit rewind and see some of the things that Gene and Don might have been able to do. As I said, they bought that ranch-style house in 1960 for 30 grand. They paid it off in 1985, and it's worth, actually, I changed the facts on myself a little bit, but they had a very low basis house that's worth 250 grand now. Okay, Jean's grandfather, we're just going through the facts again, gave her 50 acres of farmland, part of the original family farm. Her basis in that, for reasons I explained, is going to be extremely low. Over the years, Don and Jean accumulated $400,000 worth of investments and other savings. Then recall, Don had a stroke and he got admitted to the nursing home. Over the next 18 months or so, Jean spends 170 grand on Don's care. What should have Jean done? Call Bob. Let's look at Medicaid for a couple. As I said a moment ago, the rules are much friendlier to a married couple than they are for a single person. A spouse at home, which we call the community spouse, can retain as much as $128,640. In other words, if a married couple comes into me and they've got $200,000 worth of countable assets, I'm going to have to think of some way of getting them spent down to $100,000. If they, I haven't done the math, whatever, well, let's give you another example. If they come in with $400,000, the general rule is, well, half of 400 is 200. I'm going to have to spend them down to $128,640. And believe me, I could sit here and talk another hour or two about some of the strategies that are available to that married couple. The other thing to keep in mind is after one spouse is on Medicaid, the other spouse, the community spouse, could win the lottery. It has no bearing on the Medicaid spouse's continuing eligibility. The only thing that it's going to have an impact on is if the community spouse wins the lottery and later has to go into the nursing home, it could affect his or her ability to get onto Medicaid. Again, there are plenty of things that we can do to avoid that occurring. So what am I going to do for that couple? Well, I'm going to make the farm a non-countable asset. I'm going to convert it to what's called a tenancy in common. Our real property law is quaint. It was invented by the English hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and when we asked those guys wearing the red coats to leave about 240 years ago, they left behind their real property law. And tenancy in common is one of those old English real property law. It's simply property that you own with other people. If you gave the kids 1% of the farm, it is now a tenancy in common. The home is not a countable asset. Remember, it's still eligible for state recovery later on, but it's not a countable asset. And what I do is temporarily convert those assets over $128,640, or if half the countable assets is less than that number, then we'll use that number. Remember my example about 200,000, your magic number is 100. And what I do is use various strategies and techniques for temporarily transmogrifying, if you will, those countable assets into something that's not countable. And then after the one spouse is found eligible for Medicaid, then you can do pretty much whatever you want with those non-countable assets. Now, Don is now on Medicaid. Is that the end of the story? Probably not. I would be committing legal malpractice if I didn't at least bring up the possibility with the community spouse of we've got to start looking at your estate planning and everything, see if we can avoid a real train wreck later on. Remember, getting someone onto Medicaid is only half the job. The other half of the job is doing whatever you can to protect those assets. Now, if Don died and Jean never ever went into the nursing home, great. That's the end of the story. She didn't have to do any planning. Oh, by the way, I do not have a working crystal ball, so you never know what could happen out there. If Jean dies and leaves everything to Don, disaster. Because now you've got Don as a single person who eventually has to go into the nursing home. He's got, what, $400,000 and inherited Jean's land and everything. And their daughter comes in to see me and I say, well, we're going to have to figure out some way of getting Don down to about $2,000, and it's going to be a chore. There are some things that I can do to save a chunk of it for them, but it's going to be a lot tougher for that single person. Same difference. If Don dies and leaves everything to Jean and Jean goes to the nursing home, you've got a real problem. Now let's talk about if Don and Jean had come in to see me. Every single one of those disastrous scenarios could have been avoided. Let's take another look at the third scenario. This applies to any single person who had done no advanced planning. Don dies and left all to Jean. Jean now has Alzheimer's disease. Jean now has $225,000 remaining, her home that's now in her name, and of course, she has Granddad's farm. She goes to the nursing home, the tab is 10 grand a month. What should Jean's daughter have done? Well, at least come in and see me and we'd see what we can do. As I said, not as many options for a single person as for a married couple, but I could make the farm non-countable. There are some things I could do to the farm and the home that would protect both of those from estate recovery. So there's a lot that I can do with real property. It's just getting that person onto Medicaid and protecting the cash is going to be a tall order. Medicaid for that single person, as I said, if it's cash, we got to figure out something to do with $10,000, or get her down to $2,000, excuse me, and there are going to be limited options on the table, and all the best I could probably do, unless there happened to be a disabled child or other disabled family member that I could do some trust planning for, but barring that, there's going to be limited options. I might take some of the cash and try and buy some real property with it or what have you. We can certainly pay off debts. Absolutely, you can pay off debts, and now would probably be a very good time to do some prepaid funeral planning, which is absolutely acceptable. And as I said, I usually ask around to see if there's any disabled children, any other person in the family under 65 who's disabled. You know, that's one of those, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade sorts of situations, but there's plenty I can do if that situation comes up. Let's talk for just a moment about Medicaid applications. You may recognize that table that picture was taken on. It was taken right here on this table, and that is a real live Medicaid application, and I covered it up with that little yellow sticky to avoid giving away a client's name. But Medicaid applications are onerous, they're time consuming, and not for the faint of heart. They're incredibly detailed. DSSs around the state are asking for 5 years of bank statements. That's another tip from me to you. If you think there's a Medicaid application out there on the horizon for you or someone in your family, you might as well start collecting those 5 years worth of bank statements. Better yet, see if you can get it in digital form, like PDF files on a jump drive of some kind. And it's absolutely essential that whatever strategy we have used is presented correctly, and you've got someone presenting it who is ready, willing, and able to make arguments in favor of that strategy. Another thing to watch out for right now is transfers. That is probably the single greatest problem I have in Medicaid planning when folks come in and they talk about the transfers that they've been making to the children. Now, they do exempt transfers that were part of a regular pattern of gifting. I'm talking about, you know, a few $100 on a birthday or Christmas or monthly offerings put into the offering plate at church. Things like that are fine. But quite often folks will come in to me and just give me a whole detailed listing of all the transfers that they've been making to the kids over the years. Keep good records and take care to detail what your expenses are. And especially be careful, and this happens quite a bit too, if the child goes out and spends money for mom and then mom goes and reimburses the child. At least keep some sort of record as to what was going on at that time. Did I just say keep records? Keep meticulous records. You will make everyone's life much easier if you're keeping those good records over a period of time. And by the way, during this pandemic, There are no in-person applications being made at departments of social services. Eventually they'll open back up, but right now we're having to do it all electronically. So we've got plenty of experience. We've actually been doing that for about a year or so, filing applications where the counties would permit us to electronically, and now they're all asking us to do that. One other thing that I might mention is a few weeks ago, the North Carolina General Assembly passed and unanimously, and Governor Cooper signed it into law, is we've got provisions that we can use for video signings and witnessing and everything, so that we need not really sit down. It's a lot easier if you can come in and sit down at my table, but we've got a workaround for that too. So, between a rock and a hard place, where does that leave us? Well, I can help with the Medicaid rock. I'm sorry, I can't help keep you out of a nursing home. I'm not a magician in that area, but I can certainly help you figure out how the heck you're going to pay for it. A couple of my favorite sayings. Remember this: no plan is a plan. Probably a bad plan, but it is a plan. If you fail to do something, you have done something. That something is nothing. If you don't have a plan, you've got a plan. It's just a terrible plan. One other thing that I see folks do all the time, they overthink things. And unfortunately, I didn't make the rules. Congress did that for us. They are quite complex, and people will spend way too much time overthinking it. There comes a point in time where you're just going to have to accept the abilities and the credentials of your attorney and have faith that he or she is going to do things correctly. It's a little like going to the doctor. Doctor says, we're going to do surgery to make the pain go away. I've never said to that doctor, can you tell me in detail what you're going to do during that surgery? I'd really rather not know. Thank you very much. I just want to know that the pain's going to go away. And that's exactly what we're going to do if you come in to see us. The other thing is don't procrastinate. I'm used to being around to it, but don't do it. Do yourself a break, and give yourself a break rather, and get off your duff and do something about it. And of course, the critical part of the solution is to make sure that you're getting an elder law attorney who understands exactly what he's doing. Did you really think I was going to suggest you go see someone else? Check me out and you'll see that I absolutely know what I'm doing. As I said, we're accepting appointments too, via Zoom. I selected Zoom. There are a number of platforms out there because I felt that Zoom was a fairly easy platform to use for folks who may be somewhat technically challenged. I'm also meeting with folks via telephone. As I said, I'm getting creative on signings. We've done some video signings, and I've done a number of signings through the nursing home window, where one person is on, the resident of the nursing home is on one side of the window, and I'm on the other side of the window with witnesses. We've done a number of those. So give us a call, and I'd love to be able to help you. And if you have questions, unfortunately, I can't answer questions for you right now, but you can do a number of things. Go to masonlawpc.com. The website, I've been packing that website full of articles for better than probably 15 years or so now. And of course, if you got some real burning questions, give us a call and come on in. I'd love to meet you.